Good morning, misfits, loners, eccentrics, oddballs, conspiracists, heretics, and of course, the rebels. How unjust, cruel, and despotic the times must be if we are now massing with new energy and passion that I have not seen since the revolution. Thank you to the Libertarian Party of Georgia for all your hard work in bringing this magnetic group together here in Dawsonville. There was going to be a joke here. But Stephanie, the joke is on us. I was going to say something to the effect of here in Douglasville because, hey, it's not Carrollton. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the geopolitical goings on here in Georgia, Carrollton is it's a much smaller town. But Stephanie and crew, they put on a great LP convention here. Ladies and gents, we exist as slaves in the vast shadow of the largest empire that has ever dominated this planet. Even worse, this empire was predicated on the agreement that was a government of the individual, small and restricted through the definition of the Constitution. We must conclude, then, that government is not fashioned as Bastiat and Jefferson once contended to protect life, liberty, and property. No, to the contrary. As prophetic as the Anti-Federalists submitted, all government must consume and destroy life, liberty, and property to exist. Stick with me. This gets brighter. There is hope. The shadows of tyranny depend on the ignorance of the oppressed. And in the age of information, we are slowly but surely burning into the masses the natural principles under which mankind thrives: peace, individual liberty, and free markets. It is amazing what can happen when people rebuff the dullness of their government-prescribed indoctrination, the newspeak of the propagandists, and the doublespeak of the politicians, and begin to journey down the road of self-evident enlightenment. These misfits, loners, eccentrics, oddballs, conspiracists, heretics, and rebels begin to shine. I believe, as the great John Taylor Gatto did, in that genius is an exceedingly common human quality, with the power to lift mankind out of the muck and the mire to heights we have yet to fathom. And when this knowledge of natural law is applied, it is more powerful than any empire could ever grasp. For it is the light, and it is beaming in this auditorium. That beam of light is you. You are the truth tellers, the orators, the liberty meme makers, and the defenders of natural law and inherent individual rights. I cannot take on this task without your help, and of course, your charity. However, I can think of nothing more virtuous than the investment of time, hard work, and fiat currency to the cause of liberty. Seriously, you guys couldn't have picked a guy with a fuller plate. It is with the most humble heart and restless spirit that I will accept the Libertarian Party of Georgia's nomination for United States Senate. I am at your service. To be roused by the brain trust here in this room and the members of this party at large pushes one's senses and capabilities. However, I am optimistic, and I am grateful for the opportunity to communicate your message to the people of this nation and beyond its make-believe borders. It is time to end the wars. It is time to end the Fed. And it is long past time to end the empire. Sic semper tyrannis. Peace.
Good people. I feel like I've heard that before, and it was a pleasure to hear it again. That was my good buddy Shane across from me giving his speech that he gave to the LP convention, who elected him as their nominee for U.S. Senate to contend against David Perdue. I was going to say the great David Perdue because
boy,
but not because he's necessarily great, but because he's a formidable opponent.
Yeah.
But the word "great" within libertarian circles has been contentious lately, so I'll stay away from that. And yet to be, though, I think we could come up with all our talking points. Great Democrat on the other side.
Oh, I'm sure.
I hope you get into the debates. It's going to be fun. And speaking of debates, I think that that idea was one of my favorite parts of the whole convention. Was an idea from our friend Adam Kokesh about the debates, which I will leave to that episode when it comes up. But guys, you want to listen to at least the second half of the Kokesh interview that will come up on Friday.
Oh, man.
Because that idea is what has me the most excited about the Libertarian Party, maybe. Also, the candidates are cool and so forth, but it's a novel idea, and it's not the whole thing that Adam pushes front and center. It's this other side thing that I think he should push front and center because it's really exciting. So what did you think about the convention, Shane?
Man, I had a great time. It was cool to finally meet people in person. I'm kind of a hermit, man. Like, I like my space, and that's why I'm here in North Georgia, away from everybody.
Yes, I did my pilgrimage for the weekend. Drove all the way to the top of the mountain, then a little bit down the mountain, then back up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, it was a fantastic time, man. I'm still, there was a lot of things that you guys aren't going to get that happened off air. I do want to talk about a little bit of it. I think this happens probably very often in these circles, where because people will dress a certain way or put on a certain character in front of the cameras and things, that a lot of times people don't take them seriously. The Vermin,
I know of what you speak.
Yeah, the Vermin Supremes. I think our buddy Dan Berman, who came on the show, he's got a loud yellow hat that says "Taxation is Theft" on it. Vermin obviously is the guy that wears the boot on the head that I think probably really turns off a lot of people who are recovering neocons that have come over to the Libertarian Party.
I think it can turn off anybody who takes politics a little bit too seriously.
Yeah.
And to some degree, I don't think they're necessarily wrong if they're pursuing a certain goal. They can at least have desires. They shouldn't be able to control other people's own desires, but they have desires for things to go a certain way, to have influence in a certain way, and they can see tangible, I think, in instant tangible examples of being made fun of because Vermin says he's a libertarian now. Right.
And Vermin, I mean, I got to talk with that guy for damn near an hour at the little reception afterwards. Mm-hmm. When he knows, I don't know, when he's not running around in character trying to, I don't know, provocate or do what
get attention. I mean, he's been very honest about it. He's like, this was to get attention. He calls it his magical boot, and that's because he realized, he told a story at some woodland party of some sort. Mm-hmm. He realized that if he put the boot on his head, not only did his head not get wet, but he also got a lot of attention. That's why he uses it. That's literally just to get attention.
Yeah, it was hysterical. But I mean, off script and really just having a beer and a talk with the guy, it was great, man. I mean, super, super smart guy. Comes from 180 degrees from where I came from to libertarianism. I mean, you want to talk about the wood festivals where you're running around in these weird communes for I don't know, a week or whatever it is, and people are free to do things, and kind of his story in terms of going through that in the early years and in his formative years where he is learning how to perform in front of a crowd, how he is learning to tell stories, how he is then helping with safety so that when the force shows up in their little uniforms and everything, he's doing de-escalation. Mm-hmm. And to see obviously I understand de-escalation and all that kind of stuff, and we started talking about these kind of things, and he really opened up, man, and it was a cool experience to be able to talk with him. I mean, I'm going to keep talking about other guys, but I mean, in terms of Vermin, I think you got to speak to him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I actually apologized to him, which he was confused by for a second, and I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, well, why? And I'm like, well, I'm sorry because I judged you really, really fast, and I don't mean to take politics so seriously, and you are not just making fun of everything, which I wouldn't necessarily mind him making fun of politics in general. Right. But I thought that he was particularly making fun of people who shouldn't be made fun of. Not that all libertarians should not be made fun of. Most of us should be made fun of. Yeah. But there are some people saying serious things who are not taking politics seriously. They're taking morality seriously. And I don't necessarily appreciate that being made fun of. But he said that until now, and I have no basis to prove that I shouldn't believe him. Until now, he's just been trying to get attention. There's been nothing serious there, and he did make it a point that I think he might find boring, but he made it multiple times during the debate, different conversations, and he reiterated it to me that when he takes the boot off, he is just a serious person making points about politics.
Yeah.
And he explains his positions quite well. He's quite informed. He comes from like leftist areas.
Yeah, for sure.
And he says that one of the big attacks he's gotten from libertarians is that he shared like some anarcho-communism type stuff. I forget what exactly. I might be getting the words wrong on Facebook. And he was attacked for that. And then he read it. He read the Wikipedia page, and he was like, "Okay, actually, no, I don't agree with
not
that."
This.
So, no, I think, and he's pretty honest about what he can do as well. He's like, "What I can give you is the fact that I have a magical boot." That when he's not wearing it and he talks about it, he takes it seriously. He's like, "This gets me tons of attention.
Yeah.
I built a following." I think he might be over exaggerating the worldwide following he has, but maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
He's got
and he says that he can transform that into support for the Libertarian Party. If that's true, he's not necessarily the person that I'd want, but
and that's the thing is, like, because we do come. I mean, this party comes from such different walks of life. Like there's not one right way. And I think that's the thing that hit me and hit home today is like, listen, I might have the path for, the guys that are neocons, right? I might have that nailed down, but I definitely don't have nailed down the guys that hang out in the forest and eat mushrooms and, do these weird, like, I say weird to me, but like, that wasn't my crowd, but that's not where I come from. That's not where I have experience. He's got it in droves, and to be able to take a guy like Vermin, right, throw him out into a situation like Burning Man or Lollapaloozas or Bonnaroo or like things where we might be somewhat out of place. Man, if he can recruit from there, if he can go and be an example there, boy, more power to you.
Yeah, it's definitely it actually happens with another aspect of libertarianism. During the convention, they're all like voting and so forth, and without exception, or almost without exception, there's at least a few people, even with things they all agree on, who say no to who just vote against the nature of things.
Can we talk about that too?
Yeah. I'm going to talk about it right now.
Yeah. Let's talk about that after. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You already did.
I know. Sorry,
but that's very libertarian of you. Interrupting a Republican, you savage people. I don't call myself anything actually, but and it's funny because it always happens, and there's some kind of pride about it.
Yeah.
But you can also, but people laugh about it at the same time. And after it happened quite a few times, and then there were a few votes where there was nobody who voted in the negative, which made me uncomfortable. I'm always a person at Republican events who votes no. They don't really get why, but
yeah,
because half their stuff sucks. But
oh yeah, at least.
But at least, yes. But afterwards, there was like in a group that got together. We talked about it. We're like, no, we have to make sure that hey, people who said no, people continue to say no. It's a good thing. Like don't stop. Don't feel singled out because not a lot of you. And we're fiercely independent people, so I doubt that will stop. But it is a good thing to encourage because as soon as the Libertarian Party and people who believe in liberty stop accepting that they have to accept the responsibility of their choices. Their choice is liberty. The responsibility and consequences of liberty is that there's going to be like a little bit of a mess, right? Yeah. It's not going to be all the same opinions. And you can either accept that means not trying to change the mess necessarily, trying to be friendly within the mess, yes, but not trying to change it. Or you can do what most people have an automatic inclination to do. We all, at least I have it sometimes, which is trying to control things, right? For one's own personal sanity and desires. The desires can be a little darker. And say, no. But you can't say I want liberty and I want to control and make sure that one of the presidential candidates doesn't, I don't know, say something crazy, which I'm sure there are a few crazy things said on stage. Actually, one of the craziest,
it's funny as hell though,
was Lincoln Chafee. Yeah. It wasn't that crazy, but within the realm of normal society, he talked about MLK. Lincoln Chafee used to be a Democrat and then a Republican or a Republican, then a Democrat, then an independent,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And he said about MLK and like, the government kind of admitted that they might have had a part in his assassination. That's actually like known facts.
Yeah.
But then he also was like, and this guy who killed MLK, I'm not sure it was him. I forget the name. And I was like, the biggest conspiracy theorist on the debate stage tonight or this afternoon
It's actually a former senator.
was a former like establishment guy who's been all over. He's been all over the establishments, the Republican establishment, Democrat establishment,
Independent.
So I thought that was really fun.
Hitting for the cycle. Yeah, that guy.
I've blathered on. I know.
No. I think you bring up some things that resonated for me too. Is I found this very different than any other party that I've ever been a part of. In terms of the way business is conducted and the way that candidates conduct themselves, even in a much more loving, fun, a more of a brotherhood, right? Like these guys, let's just say they're 90% there with each other. Like I think
wait till the national convention, a little bit less love.
Sure, but I mean, there's about 90%, and the guys that I take real serious in this whole thing, right? I think there is a mutual respect that is much more desirable that I saw, and I was just like, I was overwhelmed by it. I was like, finally, I'm in a place where people can have fun, they can laugh, they don't take this bizarre sport of politics, overly seriously to the point where they are unkind to their fellow man. Mm-hmm. And that was really neat.
There was actually a moment. I think we should talk about it. So we were doing the nominations for different offices.
Yeah.
And so Shane for Senate and some other people for Senate too, and one for like State House, I think.
Yep.
And then there's this younger kid. I won't mention his name, but he was going to run for Congress, probably early 20s, I assume, and 3rd or 4th district. Do you remember, Shane?
Mm-mm.
But he went up to the podium.
Yes.
Started speaking.
Yeah.
And he was having a hard time doing like the public speech thing, which I totally understand. I am much better at than I was before, but I've like shaked paper before at a podium and so forth. Not that long ago. And he really had a hard time going through it and was like stuttering and then like took a moment of just silence.
Yeah.
Nobody, I mean, this is a full room full of what, like 100 people?
At least.
Nobody said anything.
Yeah.
Everybody was completely quiet, just waited. The chair, Ryan, our friend, was like, do you want to continue? It's fine if you want to. Do you want to like sit back down and try later? And he had like a blood sugar issue.
Diabetic.
And then Ryan asked him later if he wanted to try again, and he wasn't up to it. Nobody complained. Nobody said anything. It was like, this is not. It took up people's time, but I thought it was really nice that people were kind even during the debate.
Yeah.
That one of the presidential candidates also like wasn't great with the public speaking, and took his time to and stuttered, to talk, and had a hard time getting things out, and nobody pushed him on. Everybody encouraged him. I thought it was really nice to see how empathetic people were.
Yeah. Let me tell you about primaries there, though. Like, so basically this is the Libertarian.
For those who don't know, it is quite funny.
Yeah. So this is kind of this is the way the Libertarians conduct their primary, basically. Like, they're going to have a representative for each one of those seats. The interesting thing about it is every time somebody votes for a candidate, if there's 1 or 4 or 5, whatever it is, every time that somebody goes up for a vote, there is the none of the above option. That's the first thing that is, I think, very telling about the Libertarian Party, right? Like, hey, listen, if they're not good enough, and the delegates who show up, right? Like, show up. Mm-hmm. You get to vote, and if that person, or you don't think any of the people are worth the party getting behind and supporting, man, it's a none of the above option.
And even the Libertarians, when you don't vote none of the above, they'll joke and be like, I guess you're not Libertarians, guys.
That's right.
Because you voted for a human being to decide things
for you. Here's the other thing about it is after you're nominated, okay, after you're nominated, you come back, you give speeches and all that fun stuff. When it's time to vote, just like dodgeball or kickball back in grade school, the people who are nominated or who have nominated themselves, which I did not do. I did not nominate myself.
Who nominated you?
I think it was Ted. It was Mr. Ted Metz, and I believe you were the first, like before anybody could even get out of their mouth. Is there a second? Basically, second.
I thought it was just fun.
It was very interesting. Anyway, you stand before this crowd of delegates, and to know that there is a none of the above choice. Man, I can do all the public speaking. I can get up in front of crowds. I can take ownership of a crowd and start leading them to do things. Man, I have no problem with any of that kind of stuff. Never upsets my stomach. I never get like really nervous. If anything, I get anxious and excited to do it. Man, standing in front of that crowd and having it drag out, right? Like it drug out for a while because first and foremost, we didn't have everybody in the room that should have been voting. So our numbers were all over the damn place. So this takes longer. We stand up there and like things aren't adding up. So then we have to, somebody asks for a quorum. Quorum is basically, hey, let's roll call, see who's here, see who's not here, and let's get the voting really started. So round one has already taken place. My stomach banks during that time.
Really?
Oh my God. As I'm standing up, and this, I mean, seriously, our vote took probably 15, 20 minutes. Easy, right? And so you're just sitting up there the whole time, standing up there, sitting up there. I got to know one of the other candidates, Jensen. Jensen went to Brookwood. Is that a crazy thing?
Jensen, which one was Jensen?
He was the guy right next to me. He was the younger guy that was self-nominated, or no, that was nominated by somebody else.
What's his name? Jensen? I thought it was something else.
Yeah, it's Jensen.
Okay.
At any rate. So we start talking up there and everything, and it was funny is at the time we were talking about like how he came from a totally different background, and like I didn't know he was from Brookwood at the time. I had no idea because I think he was an 03 and I was a 98 guy. At any rate, I found that out days later. But to make a new friend where we're sitting up there and things are going on, but I'll tell you right now, my stomach, it is if somebody reached into my chest and grabbed my stomach and just started like slowly squeezing it and turning it just ever so slightly, man. I have not felt like that. I don't even know when. Like probably when I was in like no kidding hand-to-hand training where I got hit in the solar plexus like really, really hard, man. It was tearing me up. Because
you must have cared about their opinion then, because I've run not for nominations for public office, but I've run for many offices within the Republican Party. I've won a few and lost most of them, and I get like a little a little nervous being up there.
Do they vote for you by hand like that?
Yeah,
yeah.
But it must be the contentious nature that most of the time I'm just like whatever. And I'm happy that like 2 people vote for me. Yoo-hoo, my fans.
Yeah, as much as you may not want to be the representative, right? Like their nominee at the end of the day, you still don't want to lose to Noda.
But I think I would have cared more if it was people who I had more in line with.
Yeah, I had a lot of respect for them. So. Yeah, that's the thing is I think, boy, if this crowd takes you out to the woodshed and says no thanks, you go find some other pasture somewhere else. Like you're not good enough. Oh man,
I actually was surprised that there was not more. So I don't have much experience with the Libertarian Party. I did work for them professionally for a while, and a lot of my friends are in there now. People who were in the Republican Party with me and abandoned me. But there are like factions within there. Like there's a small faction. I went to the national once to see how it works. There's a small faction who hates Ron Paul.
Yeah.
And so the fact that there were so many Ron Pauls mentioned and nobody dared like say boo or something was quite. There's a faction that is completely pro-choice in a weird way, and if there's any mention of pro-life, which there was, goes berserk as well. So I think the Georgia Libertarian Party is quite different than other Libertarian parties.
It seems it seems like they have at least good manners. And I don't know, man. I think in this day and age, I don't care what it is, and I think what I'm going to be pushing throughout this entire thing as a theme, is bringing people together. Is stop looking at things as Democrats and Republicans, and stop hating people. Like it is time to turn that on its head and do some different things. And if you can find that common ground with everybody, man, which I think is like you say it all the time. I think people vastly agree on most things, right? If you can just find it and a way to phrase it and push that, I think there is such a resounding impact that a positive force, right? A positive voice out there is going to do some absolutely amazing things.
No, I definitely think so. And I think that a lot of people might not be as detailed as us, and they don't need to be proven everything. But when you prove them one big thing that they didn't know that they had in common with somebody else, like I see it. I see it especially in my sister's eyes and my family and friends' eyes when they realize, like, because they're like, well, you're kind and you care about people and you would never hurt anybody and you like helping people who are in a bad position. Like you're all like the good things, and I'm like that too. How the hell can you be pro-gun? Like, but all they need, because they know I'm pro-gun, like I'll repeat all these things I'm for. They're like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
All they need is that one thing about, oh, you're kind and you care about people. And of course they're convinced because they know me,
right,
and they're biased, and they know me. I hope the knowing me part is more of that. But I think most people just need maybe a few things to be like, we have that in common. This can't be that bad if we have that in common.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get to that point where you're like, hey, listen, we want you to do whatever the hell you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. I don't care if you commune with other people. I don't care if you want to be an entrepreneur. I don't care what you do, as long as you're not hurting people, you're not taking their stuff, you're not using government, force against people to, exact your morality. Like, as long as we can agree to those types of things, man, the society that we can start to see, and which I think is kind of starting to already evolve, because I'm an eternal optimist in a lot of ways, I think that is a better thing for humanity in general, and especially here in the United States, where things are just, what we've been told are, just absolutely crazy in terms of polarization. I don't see it a lot of times. And when you take these different crowds and you take their different ideas, cool, great. Glad you got some great ideas. Go try it. Go do whatever the hell you want to do, man. I'm all for you. Just don't ask me to pay for it. Don't send the government to my house with guns to take money to pay for it. Don't try to throw me in a cage if I disagree with you. Like, I don't care. Go do your proof of concept.
It's almost like you're saying that taking it from you or sending other people to take it from you is kind of resorts to the same thing in the end.
Yeah, it's all about force, man.
But speaking about better ways, I do think that for parties in general, whether it's the Libertarian Party or the Republican or Democrat Party, I think that having a internal system, because parties are supposed to be private. Now, the Democrat and Republican Party have weaved themselves into our laws, giving them an upper hand. That's not okay. But I think this is a better way to do things. There are different states who do it differently. Iowa, a lot of people don't realize that they do the caucus system, which is really weird. Meaning the night of the election, they go to these like gymnasiums and like community centers and go into different corners and like yell across the room for people to change corners and so forth. It's very weird. But I find some kind of internal party system to pick the nominee, not the final election, but to pick the nominee, if we had equality between the parties, right, makes so much more sense if the parties actually want to be independent. If the parties want to be a part of this private-public partnership, then there's definitely a problem. But there's been a push for that to happen in Georgia with Republicans, which I think would make I think even if the Republican Party would never be perfect and the Democrat Party would be even less perfect, I think they would have candidates that we would prefer more if the grassroots of those parties were choosing the candidates.
I totally agree with you.
So the Ron Pauls in the world and the Tulsis of the world, not that they're on equal footing, would have a much better chance than if the RNCs of the world and whoever's at the top, the Reince Priebus and who's the guy, the big Republican guy who spends tons of money. He was Bush's guy.
Scooter? Not Scooter. Jeez, Pete. Yes.
Doesn't matter.
The architect, Karl Rove.
Karl Rove. Yeah, the Karl Roves of the world choosing our nominees.
Yeah, I totally agree with you for a bunch of reasons too, right? In terms of just resources allocated, what you can do in terms of a convention, and maybe this is new for some of you guys that are Republicans and Democrats out there. If you've attended conventions, listen. This might be a great way to get your parties to take control of them again. Is demand that at the state, local, and national levels, you do a lot more like the Libertarians, and that way your resources go in the people who show up and work tirelessly to do these things, vote. The thing is, it's not hard to be a delegate in your state. It's not hard, like I think for us, it's basically you show up, you're a due paying member and all that kind of stuff, minus some rules. And
it's kind of the same for the Republican Party, but they have so I've only been involved in the Republican Party for, only a decade now.
Right.
Good Lord. And even over that decade when it was already quite controlled, there have been things coming down the pipeline from the national to the state to the state to the local level that make it harder and harder. Yeah. It's like when Ron Paul ran the second time, every single county in Georgia, Cobb County being the biggest one, reinstituted its membership fees. There actually didn't used to be required tax type form thing.
Sure.
Republican Party taxes, membership fee to be a member of the Republican Party seems quite inviting. Seems like quite a good idea in the first place. But to like trickle out some of us, they reinstituted it for $35, and it got rid of a few of us, I think, who were like,
did you pay yours?
I've paid mine many a time.
many a time.
My favorite time is when my dad paid them, and then they messed up the conventions, and he was like, I paid it with a check. Check is stopping right now. And so they didn't get the money for that one. Wow.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, my dad can be pretty cool sometimes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, most of the time when I talk to him, pretty cool guy.
You want to get into some other news, or
do
you want to do some LP?
We got a ton of stuff, man.
So just so you guys know, we're going to talk about milk, we're going to talk about the impeachment, and we're going to talk about a fee article. That is the other stuff we're going to talk about. We didn't plan on, and we're going to start with Virginia and the gun stuff.
Yeah.
The plan was not to talk so much about the convention.
Yeah, I want to play a quick piece by one of our guests.
I know who it is.
Yeah, who is it?
Nick Freitas?
Yeah, it is.
Yahoo.
Yeah, so Nick, I think as an assemblyman in Virginia, he's running for U.S. House, by the way.
I saw that.
Do you see? Oh, this is a weird thing. I'll get to that in a minute. But for a delegate who's part of this, or I should say an assemblyman who's part of this organization, that the people outside are protesting, heavily armed, right? Dangerous,
this
awful.
Organization, you mean the Delegate House of Virginia?
Yeah. Okay. White supremacists, neo-Nazis, everything that's being lied about in the media, right? Mm-hmm. When you take the at least even, let's just say the constitutional, I'm going to say the right, let's just say that even the constitutional stance that, hey, listen, you have a right that is enumerated in the Constitution, that you have the right to keep and bear arms, obviously self-preservation. When you stand up and you make your voice heard and you don't compromise your votes, the ability for you to walk out of that house into a quote-unquote hostile crowd and make a speech and be cheered and loved, right? That is so telling and so powerful that I thought it was worth, listening. It's a minute 50, right? And I don't think we get all of it, but Nick, I think Nick made the rounds out there. He gave some great little speeches, and I think this is worth it because, hey, Nick's running for U.S. Congress now. So I think we're going to be hearing a lot more of him over, I don't know, the next 8.5 months or whatever. So without further ado.
Everyone has a right to the civil liberties in this country, and all law-abiding citizens should have the right and the means to be able to properly defend themselves. And you guys showing up here to demonstrate that to my fellow legislators is incredibly important, right? Don't let anybody tell you it doesn't matter. Don't let anybody tell you that standing here in the cold or standing here in the lines wasn't worth it. It does send a message, not only for what we're doing this session, it reverberates across the Commonwealth. Because one of the things that the press doesn't seem to want to pick up on is that there have been hundreds of rallies all across the Commonwealth of Virginia with tens of thousands of Second Amendment supporters showing up. No arrests, no violence, no shootings. Why? Because that's not who we are. We are law-abiding citizens, but we demand that we actually have our rights respected, because the rights do not come from that building over there. Right? Those rights are natural. They come from God. The people in that building are supposed to be there to protect those rights. All right? So again, I just want to, I'm almost done. I'll get you next time. But thank you. But listen, thank you very much for coming here. Thank you for actually taking a stand and letting your legislators know. And I want to apologize to you about something. You should never have to decide between lobbying your representatives or having the means to defend yourself. Right. That was a garbage rule. The other thing I want to say about that is that when the House Democrats passed that rule, they tried to pass it off as if the Capitol Police asked them to do it. The Capitol Police did not ask them to do it. So when you get in there, see one of these Capitol Police, you see one of these state troopers, shake their hands, thank them for being here, because they have been professional, respectful this entire time. But again, do exactly what you've done all over the Commonwealth. We're here, we're peaceful, but we're resolved.
Excellent. I mean, just a little impromptu. I'm coming out to talk to the people, man.
So he must have given a few, because I listened to one that was also about a minute 50, and he was standing on top of some box, and Tina, his wife, who was in the background there, was also in this other one, and she was holding like the megaphone while he was like holding the little piece, the mouthpiece to talk to the megaphone. Yeah. And I saw another one that says, so he's done at least 3 different ones.
Yeah, he walked around, man.
And it's kind of the same speech every time, which is funny.
So like 20,000 people came there, right? 20-ish thousand. I think I saw.
I heard tens of thousands. So
so upper end, maybe 22 is what I heard. But
cool.
At any rate, really cool. One thing that I took away from this, and I hope to God the people in power are listening. They were obviously wrong, right? Like the calls from Northam and the media and the rest of the propaganda and any and everybody who was part of that side of this issue. Mm-hmm. They were categorically proven wrong.
Well, what were they saying? They were saying that it was going to be a horrible, hateful, and violent affair.
The fact
that's why they had to put in all these rules about where you're allowed to carry guns. They had to put up these fences, and behind the fence you were allowed to carry guns. I saw a few people who went behind the fences with guns. Props to you guys. That it was going to be racist.
Yeah.
That's the one I heard the most, actually.
What did you see out there?
So I've got this collection of pictures that I put together, and it took me a minute
to
find enough to where I feel comfortable being like, okay, these are facts. It's not like one-offs of just, the people who you apparently can be racist against, because it goes only one way for those who are calling that. Just there was Black Guns Matter. There were a bunch of people. They seemed to all be Asian for some reason, who had these signs that said "Our minorities are harder to oppress," which I don't know if it had a connection with the Hong Kong protests or something, but for some reason, all the pictures of that I have are they're of Asian descent of some sort. This one woman has a sign that says, "Do I look like a white supremacist to you?" She's very Asian. Gun rights are also gay rights for the Second Amendment. I will not comply. The man behind the sheet wants your guns, and it's a black guy carrying a sign. The sheet is that picture of Governor Northam in the
blackface.
Well, we don't know if he's the one in blackface or the one behind the sheet, but one or the other. There's dozens of them. It took me a minute to find.
So
9.
basically, what you're saying is there was a cross section of America there.
Indeed.
This is the point that I wanted to make, and I hope the people who are in power, not only here in Georgia, but across this nation, understand what they just witnessed.
And I do need to give credit. There were also quite a few law enforcement with signs saying we support the Constitution, Second Amendment sanctuaries, and all that kind of stuff.
Now do drugs. Here's what I hope that they take away from this. America just got together in Virginia. America. Not Democrats, not Republicans, not left, not right, not progressives, not statist, not anything. Americans. Anybody, everybody, socioeconomic, economic, white, black, Hispanic, gay, straight, poor, rich. I don't care. Everybody was there. And here's the thing is, they came together. They were unified. The first and foremost fact, Americans came together and were unified over this one particular subject over everything else that I've seen. And I'm not saying this is the only subject that they're unified on. I'm pretty sure that they're unified against civil asset forfeiture for the most part as well. The second thing that I want these people who are in power to take away from this is these people came together armed to the teeth with the power to overtake your silly little state police and invade those chambers and take every one of you hostage and possibly execute you. And they showed restraint. The third thing, these people who could have taken your lives, who could have invaded the Capitol together as a unified American voice, they begged you for peace. With the means to destroy you in their hands, they begged you for peace. I hope you listen, because I don't think that lasts forever. I don't think that people as Americans, when they are overrun, they are taxed to death, they are permitted to do anything and everything that's out there. I don't think when you continue to run these people over and oppress them and try to strip from them their inalienable God-given rights, that this peace lasts forever. Because at some point, they're going to stop being peaceful. And that, man, I pray that day never, ever comes. I hope they listen. That's what I wanted to get out of. Like, I saw this, man, and I was just like, unbelievable. To see everybody come together, to have that capability, and to show restraint. Man, what a powerful message.
No, I couldn't agree more. I even give credit to Antifa. Okay, half credit. They get a half score. They were there as well. We had heard, and I was worried. I told you this on the podcast before it happened. I was worried. I was just hoping that there would be peacefulness, but I was worried about people going there. I know a few people who went there. Thank you for going there, because I got to see firsthand pictures. But Antifa went there, and they actually marched and had, like, they have those, they sound off things like, continue the revolution, and they were surprisingly more peaceful than usual, which is funny since there are tons of guns around.
Oh, weird.
Very cool. There was actually one arrest that happened, and that is, I think, the black mark on the whole thing.
There's an arrest.
There was one arrest of a young woman.
I have not heard of this yet.
I'm looking at her mugshot here.
Yeah.
She was released on her own recognizance the next day, but she's 21, Michaela Beschler. It doesn't say if she was pro-gun, anti-gun, whatever it was. It doesn't really matter. But for all the props we're giving to law enforcement, not that they're all the same, okay? Some Second Amendment sanctuaries and some are not Second Amendment sanctuaries. And the drug question would be interesting. But she was arrested for wearing a mask in public, which is really sad.
That is sad.
Because I don't care if she scares you in a mask until she's actually done something
heinous,
scary that leads to something that actually assaults you,
murder,
or something,
kidnapping,
doesn't
rape,
really matter.
Yeah, property damage.
She hasn't been talked about a lot, but I do feel bad for her. She was told 3 times apparently to remove her bandana, and she did not. And props to her. I don't even care what her policies are.
Yeah, the thing is I mean, you're going up against the state. I understand the want to keep some anonymity. I actually just had this conversation with some people off air not very long ago, and somebody said to the effect of, "Hey, man, let's grab a beer before you're too famous." And I was like, "Hey, dude, the fact that I have to sacrifice anonymity in this day and age to take on this monstrosity makes me hate this government that much more." Because it can be a scary thing. It's not like they don't kill people that they don't like. I mean, for God's sakes.
Lincoln Chafee said so. I will finish on this about Virginia. Northam made a comment afterwards. Short statement. He said, you'll tell me what you think about it. He says, "We're all thankful that today passed without incident. The teams successfully de-escalated what could have been a volatile situation. This resulted from weeks of planning and extensive cooperation among state, local, and federal partners in Virginia and beyond. Virginia's law enforcement and first responders did a tremendous job, blah, 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 blah. Thousands of people came to Richmond to make their voices heard. Today showed that when people disagree, they can do so peacefully. The issues before us evoke strong emotions, and progress is often difficult. I will continue to listen to the voices of Virginians, and I will continue to do everything in my power to keep our Commonwealth safe."
What a shill. What a complete shill, man. And I'm being so nice right now.
So my first part is that, so it's all due to law enforcement.
Sure, it's all government's. Hey, thanks.
Overwhelming pressure that made us. I'm saying us. I wasn't even there.
Watch who gets awards, right? Watch who gets awards. Oh yeah, it was the government who de-escalated. It was the government who put in the right security parameters to keep everything safe and not escalated. And what a
how about
bunch
this just being
of crap?
A normal day. Like, there are many places where tens of thousands of people cross. Okay, there's New York. I was in Japan recently.
Yeah.
There's crosswalks where almost 10,000 people cross like every few minutes, right? It's insane, and everything goes fine. Okay, this is how people can naturally coexist in large numbers, perfectly fine.
Yeah, when you threaten people, Governor Northam, maybe stop doing that. If you start threatening people with taking their stuff, especially their firearms, you know what they say, don't start no, there won't be no. I'm talking about starting some static, right? Like,
I got it.
You don't start any static, there won't be no static. He's starting static. You're sitting there telling everybody, hey, we're coming, we're taking the guns. Like, this is happening now that the Democrats are in control after this long stretch. Man, we're going to do something about gun violence, and we're going to do that by taking your guns. Like, hey, man, you're the whole reason people are here in the first place. You have escalated the situation, and you have pushed people to a point where they are ready to show up and show you, hey, listen, you're not going to do this as easily as I think, or as you think. And kudos to everybody that went there, especially the guys that made it from out of state and everything else to kind of reinforce these guys. They left that place immaculate. By the way,
they did do that too.
I need to point that out. Is people like this who get along from different backgrounds peacefully, armed, who are begging for peace, took the time to go back and before they even left, get trash bags and clean up anything. There were people who were peeling stickers off the road, for God's sakes.
Well, I think that when you're not focused on the government being the solution, so when you're not asking for other people to do for you and you're just there arguing that you would like to do for yourself, including defending yourself, then that innate sense of responsibility kicks in. When you're there telling other people that you want free stuff, whether it be healthcare or whatever else people are asking for free these days, I don't even know, then I think that sense of responsibility is obviously not there. And why would you have any other sense of responsibility for the small things? Because the government already deals with trash. Shane, why do you need to pick up? The government's going to do it. You're going to get somebody out of a job.
You're
okay?
already paying for it.
We need it's good jobs. Okay, picking up the trash.
Yeah.
Don't invent any robots either, because that's just not okay.
What are the prisoners going to do that work for almost nothing?
Indeed.
That are on drugs.
You had a great segue earlier, though, to some less positive comments. And this is that 2 days after this happened, still think it's all great, but it's good to know the truth. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm bringing the bad truth. 2 days after this happened, they passed 3 gun control measures about background checks and scary-looking guns. And the one that has gotten less publicity, but that I find insane, and you won't be surprised, is that they've basically instituted their own little Alien and Sedition Act. It is HB 1627.
Yeah. And
the top part of the bill kind of talks about things that you will find less problematic. It's like you're not allowed to make threats of death and injury, except this is specifically towards elected officials. Like they list them out: lieutenant governor, like down. You can't
threaten these guys.
But the bottom part,
isn't that coercion?
And I'm not saying that I'm okay with all that language either. They're really pushing the line there about threats, because until you take an action, I'm still on the fence.
Sure.
But that last part says, if any person with the intent to coerce, intimidate, or harass any person shall use a computer or computer network to communicate obscene, vulgar, profane, lewd, or indecent language, or make suggestions or proposal of an obscene nature, or threaten any illegal or immoral act, he is guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. This legislation makes it clear that the above provision applies directly to the governor, governor-elect, lieutenant governor-elect, attorney general-elect, member or employee of the General Assembly, a justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia, a judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia.
Oh, classes of citizens, people.
So my favorite person who commented on this was Nick Freitas' wife, Tina Freitas, who said, "Wow, on cue, now they're after the First Amendment. Dems are trying to step up special rules exclusive to the elite ruling class to protect themselves from criticism." So, I mean, you can go in there and find some things that are less, okay, you shouldn't coerce somebody to do something illegal. I could probably, but that's not what it says. This says, if you just take parts of it, because they're all apostrophes, right? If you're not allowed to harass somebody with indecent language. we use indecent language on this podcast. We bleep it out
Your
most of the
speech
time.
is either free
Or it's not free.
or it is infringed.
So if the people who are using this is the Attorney General of Virginia, does it just come to his opinion of what is immoral or what is obscene or vulgar? Like, there are words that I used on this podcast that I couldn't use as a kid because my mom said it was vulgar.
It's jaw-droppingly ignorant. I mean, that's the thing is, right? It's like this, when you know history and you understand like the vehement just hate that Thomas Jefferson had for the Alien Sedition Acts back in, what was it, the late 1700s? Like, you're sitting there going, wow, do you guys really understand what you're doing right now? You realize you don't. You don't even understand that we've done this in history right from the very beginning.
Well, I'm sure they had. So if somebody as intelligent as John Adams could be misaligned into supporting something like that, because he was the one behind the Alien and Sedition Act, correct?
John Adams. I'm sorry. Yeah, John Adams, not Sam Adams.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can be misaligned to support something like this. These Democrats obviously, it's like they don't have much protection. But not only are they using the fear mongering that I'm sure a lot of people were like, well, this is only peaceful because of the cops, because that's what Northam said.
Yeah.
But they're also using the beginning of this bill, the first 7 paragraphs, saying any person who knowingly communicates in writing or including to threaten to kill.
Huh.
And while I say a threat is still ambiguous, they're hiding this at the bottom of the bill.
There's a couple things. Obviously, I will never be that person that says threatening another human being is okay, right?
Correct.
Like, no, I'm never going to say that. Now, the problem is what the Democrats would like you to think is that the threat is coming from one side first. It is coming from these people who are, I hate even the term, law-abiding citizens. I hate that term with a passion. But these people
don't. So that's
these people.
Just let me interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
First thing, as a Stoic, we shouldn't let things like make our emotions.
I need to come up with a better term for it.
But maybe just the fact that law is not just a law of governments.
Yeah.
And so a law-abiding citizen could just be somebody who's following natural law.
Let's approach it from there. People who respect natural law, who practice natural law in their lives. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not the provocateurs here. The government is the provocateurs. We're going to come and take stuff from you by force with men with guns, and that includes your ability to ever, overthrow us.
But just their definitions of threats are a problem in the first place, because they would say that somebody walking down the street, the public street, carrying a gun is all of a sudden a threat of some sort.
Yeah.
When they also don't have a problem with a law enforcement officer walking down the street with a gun being given public acclamation for putting guns in peaceful people's faces.
Yeah.
Mine once, twice.
You've had law enforcement put a gun in your face. Mm-hmm. Wow. Boy, I've only been drawn on once. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't even begin to approach any. I was going fast in the desert when I was very young, and I was a Marine.
You told me about the story. Once was for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It stopped right away. Another time was for a good, I had it on for me for like a good 45 seconds.
Huh.
As I was taken from my car to the back of the cop's car. I'll tell that story once.
Yeah.
Nothing happened after that. I was completely innocent. I was.
Do you want to hear what Jefferson had to say about some of this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
It's a little lengthy, but I think it's definitely worth the read. He came up with a couple of resolutions in the Kentucky resolutions against what was going on for the Alien Sedition Acts. Mm-hmm. The 8th resolution is where Jefferson asserts that the U.S. government had become a tyranny which desired to govern with an iron rod. Okay, so it goes in 8th. That if the acts before specified should stand, these conclusions would flow from them. That the general government may place any act they think proper on the list of crimes and punish it themselves, whether enumerated or not enumerated by the Constitution as cognizable by them. That they may transfer its cognizance to the President or any other person who may himself be the accuser. counsel, judge, and jury whose suspicions may be the evidence, his order, the sentence, his officers, the executioner, and his breast, the sole record of the transaction, that these and the successive acts of the same character, unless arrested at the threshold, necessarily drive these states into revolution and blood, and will furnish new calamities. No, it's not. It's calumnies against Republican government and new pretext for those who wish it to be believed that man cannot be governed but by a rod of iron, that it would be dangerous, delusion, it would be dangerous delusion were a confidence in the men of our choice to silence our fear for safety of our rights. That confidence is everywhere the parent of despotism. Free government is founded in jealousy and not in confidence. It is jealousy and not confidence which prescribes limited constitutions to bind down those whom we are obliged to trust with power. That our Constitution has accordingly fixed the limits to which and no further our confidence may go, and let the honest advocate of confidence read the Alien and Sedition Acts and say if the Constitution has not been wise in fixing limits to the government it created, and whether we should be wise in destroying those limits. Let him say what the government is, if it be not a tyranny, which the men of our choice have conferred on our president, and the president of our choice has assented to and accepted over the friendly stranger to whom the mild spirit of our country and its law have pledged hospitality and protection, that the men of our choice have more respected the bare suspicion of the president than the solid right of innocence, the claims of justification, the sacred force of truth, and the forms and substance of law and justice. In question of powers, then, let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution.
I mean, as imperfect as the Constitution is, yep. Those constitutional changes would be really nice about now. What's that meme from what's that movie called? The Office Space, where the guy's like, I was promised something.
I was promised some cake. Yeah.
I was promised some constitutional change. That's how I was. No, I like that because he mentions in the beginning of your recitation there, he mentions this compromise that they often do to simulate what I call simulate due process, which is, oh no, so somebody from the government who we trust, and that's that innate confidence that is put in there that we're just supposed to accept, and every time we point it out, we're seen as like unpatriotic.
Oh wait, he's a strict constitutional. He's crazy.
The process is that somebody from the government has a suspicion, and they'll say that there's a suspicion, and then we'll move forth. Like, no. What if their suspicion is ill-advised? You've already put the government as much more powerful than me because now I have to prove that this government person is not telling the truth.
It happens every day. I'll tell you right now. Like one of my masochistic strains in my body, this gene that I have, where I what is the like 24-hour live cop channel?
I don't have TV, so I don't know.
Well, it's not on TV. It's on at any rate, it's out there. And this kind of ties into what I was thinking earlier with the Virginia protest and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. In this day and age where law enforcement will contact people, contact just means make contact, right? Like I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna see who you are, I'm gonna ask questions, right?
You showed me a video while we were at the convention of
yes.
Was it Secret Service or something?
It was the Capitol Police.
The Capitol Police
of Virginia.
Going to a place 100 miles away.
Over an hour away.
Over an hour, okay. Not 100 miles. Over an hour away because they had posted something or had talked about going to the rally or something like that. Like,
so
that's insane.
It was even more interesting than that because this big guy, you know, I want to call him the hillbilly because I never even saw the guy. He was a learned man, to say the least. He had learned at some point that the pillars around the Capitol were actually made of trees, and they had coated them, I guess, with some spackle or whatever to church them up a bit, to say the least. So he goes up as he is going down to take a look at the Capitol, taking pictures and all this kind of stuff. He goes up and he actually starts knocking on the columns. Now, this guy is big.
Like with his hands?
Yeah, with his hands. He's knocking on them. He's kind of... He wants to...
I'm kind of shaking my boots now, Shane. This is making me all fearful.
Yeah, he wants to see it for himself. And so they go out to his property, and he kicks one guy off with an attitude, right? Like, you need to show us your papers. In this day and age... I hope there's some law enforcement out there, and I hope maybe there are some of you guys that are friends with law enforcement that may disagree. Hey, listen, this is America, okay? If you have a charge of a crime, and no kidding crime, to arrest somebody, arrest them. But what you do not have is the delegated authority as a law enforcement officer to go up and suspect people of a crime and make them prove their innocence. I see it all the time these days. I need to make sure you're safe. I need to make sure you say who you say you are. I need to make sure that everybody around here is okay because of you. That is not...
It happened during the campaign, remember?
Oh, it happens all the time.
We would be knocking on doors. And I'm not saying there's anything so nefarious happening, but we'd be knocking on doors
in a neighborhood.
In public neighborhoods, okay? These are not gated neighborhoods. These are not private neighborhoods.
Most of the time.
Well, the ones we're talking about, these are neighborhoods where other people's taxpayer dollars and theirs have paid for the roads there, knocking on doors, and law enforcement officers who are really nice and actually supported Shane weren't allowed to do so like on the job, but they took like stickers and like wink and so forth.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, what you doing? And I have no problem answering like, doing politics and trying to get somebody elected.
Yeah, we're out canvassing, knocking on doors,
but
man.
I can't help the back of my mind being like, none of your business.
Yeah.
Not you as an individual. If a random person had asked me, I'd tell them all about it. Be like, hey, you want to hear about my buddy Shane?
Yeah.
But the government just doesn't need to know.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be paying for somebody to ask me what I'm doing in the first place.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It makes us all a little bit like schizophrenic. You know what? I don't trust myself. Got to make sure somebody's out there making sure that I'm not up to no good.
Well, and here's the thing is, who's calling in? Who's calling in and reporting something that you're doing wrong? What is that thing? Oh, they're out knocking on doors in a no soliciting neighborhood? Fine, I understand. Okay, we'll send somebody out because apparently in your neighborhood, which I think as a neighborhood, if you have HOAs and all that kind of stuff, and it's a no solicitation neighborhood, you have the ability as a people to enforce that.
Not if it's a public road.
That's true, but private property, for people to go onto private property within that neighborhood is against their community standards, which I respect.
So,
I respect it. Do you think you have a right to come up and knock on somebody's door?
I'm thinking.
I don't.
Not necessarily. If there's a no trespassing sign, I would say you don't have a right.
Yeah.
Now I go on no trespassing signs, and if somebody says why are you here, I'm like, I didn't think that applied to me. I thought because I'm here to see you specifically.
Sure.
Voter list, Mark. But there is kind of an implied front door and a doorbell for a reason, for packages and so forth. And I don't think that it's out of the... I think there's some kind of implicitness there that, well, we're allowed to contact you in some way.
Yeah.
Solicitation. So the problem, the reason I'm like squirming is because I'm depending on the current law, and there's a difference between solicitation, which is selling stuff, and
canvassing.
People going to your door for other reasons, not just canvassing, like going to your door to ask for a cup of sugar or something. So there's at least some implied fact that you're allowed to go and ring somebody's doorbell to ask them for stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Especially in a non-gated community.
If there's a gate, then yeah, you shouldn't go.
Okay. Fair enough. I thought it was interesting, but I wanted to make that point that in America, listen, law enforcement, these days of shaking people down, trying to see who they are, and basically trying to find a crime when you don't already have one when you're making contact, man, it pisses people off. I know it pisses me off. And the thing is it doesn't happen to me very often, but when it does happen, it's like, hey, what's your name? What's your badge number? Hey, man, I hope you have a really good day. If you don't have a crime, like, I'm not sticking around here to talk to you. And that's okay. Like I had to prepare my family for that today. I took my wife and my kids and my father-in-law out shooting at the property. You know, it was a cold winter morning. I said, hey, listen, we're going to go out here. If somebody shows up, and here's the thing is, there's 2 gates in between where we're shooting and the public. Mm-hmm. So there's nobody coming down. Like there is limited access to the neighborhood, and then there is even more limited access to where we are at. I had to sit there and say, hey, listen, if a cop comes out, what I want you guys to do is get with your mom and Mayor. When they show up, I would like for you guys to just go sit in the car. Okay. I will deal with the law enforcement. And here's the thing is, like if somebody would have come out there and said, what are you doing out here? I would have had a real problem with that. I mean, an extreme problem, to the point where I would have been nice. Say, hey, officer, deputy, whatever your name is, I understand what you're doing. I don't care. You're trespassing. You shouldn't be out here. We're not doing anything illegal. Unless you have a crime with, me as a suspect, you need to leave, or else I'm going to have you trespassed. And I don't know where that goes, man. In this day and age, like I feel like it's always like you're always this close with officers who don't understand de-escalation. They don't understand the law. They don't understand the Constitution, and they don't understand what the rights you have are. And it escalates all the time because you're not compliant. Do what I say, and nobody will get hurt.
The reason there's more weight to that is it's their job to know those things. It's not like we're holding an impossible standard here. It's like it's literally their job to know the law, and I'm taking that from the fact that apparently they are there to apply the law, and if you don't know the law, you probably have a hard time applying the law. And the thing, I'm making it really simple here.
Hey man, like if you want to roll up and here, let me give a solution for this. If you're an officer and you have to roll up on somebody like that or roll up on anybody like that, it's not, hey, who are you? What are you doing? It's more or less, hey, guys, we received a call. I'm not out here to do anything except for protect your rights, okay? There are people who have called. I don't need to see anything in terms of identification. I see that you have, your faculties about you. I see that you are completely safe. You're non-threatening. You're not those guys. Hey, thanks again. Have a great day.
I have had officers approach me that way.
Hey, and hats off to the guys that do that kind of stuff. I mean, you guys, maybe you don't get the credit you deserve, but I'll tell you right now, the guys that are on video doing otherwise, escalating matters to the point where somebody's either getting tased or their dog's getting shot or they're getting shot or whatever the case is. Like you see it all the time on YouTube and Facebook and everything else these days, which I can't stand. Like it makes me sick, man. It makes me fearful for not only like my family, but like, I mean, as my kids mature and they go into this world that is on its head in terms of, the presumption of innocence and due process, where people escalate things that are non-crimes just for the sake of trying to quote unquote ID somebody.
Well, I mean, it puts everybody in a horrible position when people are so convinced that, they have like IDing somebody is either the normal thing to do.
Right.
Or even a step forward of this is what I have to do because that is part of my dangerous job. But imagine the people who are faced with law enforcement on a more daily basis. Like your kids will be lucky to grow up in a place where there are less law enforcement, less people in general, and more nature. There are people in when I worked for the gun group, Georgia Gun Owners, the executive director and I went to the most dangerous place in Georgia, which is it's a town in Atlanta.
Murder Kruger?
Vine City. It's called Vine City.
Okay.
So we went to the middle of Vine City to record a video
Yeah.
because Patrick thought it was a cool idea, and it was a cool idea. But in the space of recording for like 15 minutes and me putting a tripod on, putting the video and little lapel microphone and so forth, we're at the middle of the intersection of Vine City and tons of people passing by and as many cops as people pass by, just going back and forth, back and forth. So
Wow.
if you're on a daily basis having to do this when it annoys us if it happens once.
Yeah. You imagine? I mean, your entire neighborhood's been torn apart by the war on drugs, by, contacts that have gone wrong, right? Like that whole thing, that eats at the psyche of an individual over time. And if you have a bunch of individuals whose psyche has been destroyed by a police state,
on both sides though, it also
Sure.
eats up at the police though, because then something bad happens. So then you've got both sides that are more fearful. So both sides are more aggressive and forget that the other side is also a human being.
Yeah.
And it's gone on forever.
I think, you know, what I'd like to tie this back into is the whole thing with Virginia, right? You've got a governor and you've got legislatures who are getting together and saying, this is what we're going to do in terms of taking and destroying a right. And not only that, but like, let's talk about how does this happen? It's people going house to house, taking guns by force. And they'll go after the compliant first. They'll go after the people that they don't think are threats, you know, first and things like that. And at some point, law enforcement, you got to ask yourself this question, because we're getting to that point in this time in history. Are you going to protect the criminals who are absolutely in violation of their oath? Are you going to stand between the armed, peaceful people of this rebellion that are just trying to foster their own rights? Or are you going to say the hell with that, man?
Well, there's people on both sides, apparently. There was a second county in Georgia who made themselves a Second Amendment sanctuary, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it is cool. And there are a lot of people that don't. But I that question is, I think, one question that law enforcement officers on an individual basis need to come, you know, to grips with real soon is, hey, who are you going after? Because I'll tell you what I don't see. I don't see law enforcement going after the heinous crimes of government. I don't see them going after the executives. I don't see them going after the legislatures. I don't see them going after judges. And I definitely don't see them going after the bureaucrats that do terrible, terrible, terrible things. It's always, it's either you are there to, you know, hold up law, quote unquote, that is defined and enumerated that you've sworn an oath to, or what you're doing is you're protecting those people in an executive or legislative or judicial or bureaucratic role, and that is, you want to talk about despotism.
But the reason why is that so that they put together this Alien and Citizen Act V2 is what I'm calling it.
Yeah.
The reason that Tina Freitas can say like this is a different class for the ruling elite, basically, is because they have the infrastructure to do that. They have the highest law enforcement officer, like is part of that elite group.
Right.
They have the highest lawyer. They're part of that group. The attorney general. Like they have all these people, and they just insulate themselves. And it's been going on forever because this is not the first example of them protecting themselves, right? Yeah. And having different statuses. It's what we see at the highest level with the Hillary Clinton. She does stuff that is illegal for anybody else to do it, and nothing happens to her.
Yeah.
You've got the Fast and Furious stuff, which is drug running. I'm not drug running, gun running, right? Mm-hmm. Gun running by the government. And that's not just Democrats. You can do the drug running by the Republicans during the Iran-Contra. Ronald Reagan. Not so great sometimes. And nothing happens because they're at the very top. And that's what you have when you have an oligarchy. This was part of the foundation of the Harvard study of the fact that we probably have something that looks more like a democratic oligarchy, which is
kind of weird,
but, than a republic.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. It's been I'm glad cooler heads prevailed, and I mean,
power of peace, man.
Yeah,
it's corny, but
hey,
peace.
The peaceful army too, man. Man, we got so much to damn talk about, Banksy. I don't know. I think we need to get into milk because
milk is good.
We're out at an hour and 14 already, so
we can do milk, not fast, but we can do milk in an efficient way.
Okay.
So why are we talking about milk? Because one of our wonderful previous guests, I will have to link her episode. Her name is Hannah Cox. She is the executive director of Conservatives Against the Death Penalty.
That's right.
Long ass name, awesome group. She is she knows more.
Outstanding spokeswoman.
Knows more than most people on most conservative issues and on death penalty stuff.
Yeah.
She just will. It doesn't end. Like I would love for her to be in a debate with somebody. Maybe we should find that somebody and host a debate.
It is episode 79.
Thank you.
So if you want to go back, I'm telling you right now, it's one of those Scott Horton episodes too. You know what I mean? Where
you have to listen to it a few times.
Warm your brain up, do a little stretching beforehand so that you can really take in all that is Hannah Cox in terms of, man, she knows this stuff cold and she is passionate about it. So.
But she's also passionate about liberty in general, and she commented on something that is a little bit more lighthearted. Whether this happens or not, we'll all survive, but it is indicative of a bigger problem. She commented on a post by Jim Risch, and he's a senator. He says, "If it isn't milk, don't say it's milk. Proud to lead this effort on behalf of America's dairy farmers with my good friend Senator Baldwin," who is from Wisconsin, who is the one who introduced the bill. He has co-sponsored it. And Hannah Cox, really funny, she said, "Just imagine doing everything you have to do to become a senator and then championing this when you get there." The dairy industry is getting paid by a lot of American tax dollars to overproduce products the market doesn't want. Our Get Milk campaign to push the product on the American people failed so much, so now we're going to try to stomp out free speech so their competitors have a harder time moving their product the people prefer. All of this is totally pro-freedom. That's her sarcastic comment there, and I thought it was great. But the issue is that apparently the dairy industry #Dairy Pride, which is the lamest thing I've ever heard.
Wow!
But the bill was called the Dairy Pride Act of 2019-2020.
Hey, dairy industry, if you need somebody to do your marketing for you, man, give me a shout. Like, who came up with that? Dairy Pride.
Senator Tammy Baldwin, so a politician. So we shouldn't be surprised.
That's the marketing that the government gets.
But here is part of her statement, and I want us to like chop it up a little bit. This is from Senator Baldwin. "Dairy farmers across our nation work hard to ensure their products are healthy, nutrient-dense, and in compliance with FDA regulations regarding the use of dairy terms. However, there are so many non-dairy imitation products in the marketplace using dairy terms. This represents a clear violation of existing FDA rules. When non-dairy alternatives use dairy terms to describe their imitation products, the imitators are often assumed to have the same health benefits and nutrient levels as real dairy products. This is both unfair to our hardworking dairy farmers and problematic for consumers, making it harder for Americans to make educated decisions regarding what they feed themselves and their families. We encourage you to swiftly address this unfairness and ensure that dairy terms may only be used to describe products that include dairy. Imposter products should no longer be able to get away with violating law and taking advantage of dairy's good name." Sir. So this is her letter to the FDA. She accompanied the letter with the bill, which basically does the same thing that she wants the FDA to do, because the FDA is not actually standing by there. Is it rules or law here, Shane? I'm so confused.
I mean, here we are, interstate commerce. A lot of you guys commented on, old Blake Ashby. Yeah, man, I'll tell you now.
People loved the Blake Ashby part. So I think the Hornberger got them in.
Yeah. And they stuck
but
around
everybody
for Blake Ashby.
Commented on the Ashby
You're
stuff.
welcoming for the editing, people, because I'll tell you right now, like, we've got 2 more complete shows of just interviews for you. We wanted to sneak in the show that was timely and kind of talked about some things that were going on. So we will have a couple more of those. But the Blake Ashby show, you guys, man, thanks. Thank you for listening to that. We have talked a long time about how we would like to have some more contentious types of interviews. I think that is indicative of what you can expect from Ian Banks. It's not sexy, but it's one of those things where I think when you hear the argument, and I think if, like we've said it a million times, is to be able to articulate the principles of liberty and freedom and free markets, it just destroys that truth that are those things. People see it. That's one thing about the Libertarian Party, man. Like, if you're faking the funk, man, it doesn't take the crowd to go, "Oh, he's faking it." Every individual in there that is sound in those principles knows it.
I thought it was fun, though. One of the things I thought was fun is just hearing like pushbacks that we don't hear usually, like just being confused. Like, you're giving me such an easy pushback. You realize I'm going to like destroy you in like half a second. But also the fact that there are people out there who exist like Blake, and I like Blake, like just as a person, who he confidently believes what he believes. He thinks that we need the government so we don't all die of tainted steak. And yet he's not completely comfortable with violating us through use of force.
Right.
He justifies it all the time, over and over and over. He implies it over and over and over. But when he's asked directly, he has this kind of naivete, which I appreciate, like a child, of like, but this is the solution. I just want to try to keep you safe. And a lot of what we get angry at, we don't get angry at the random Democrats who are like, we would have to keep people safe. We get angry at the people who seem to have lost their way and don't have a problem. They're justifying the force. And Blake, while he could have, he never actually justified the force. He kept on saying like, but it's the only way. It's the only way, in this very naive way. And if Blake, if you're listening, I don't mean to be insulting, but I at least appreciated there must be more people like him. And I think I like those people, even though they're misled.
Yeah. And the thing is, the door's open, right? Like we had another hour-long conversation. I think Brett called me up. He's like, dude, you're a better man than I am because I can't have that conversation with people. He's like, I'm just going to get to that point where I'm going to be like, well, I'm talking to a wall. Here's the deal. Is these kind of conversations I think are extremely valuable. And it's because of a few things. Some of you guys you're new into this kind of thing, right? There was no names called. There was nothing implied of character. There was, none of that kind of stuff happened.
Actually, there was an implied liking of the other person's character.
Sure.
Like that we all assumed were coming from a peaceful place, even though Blake was talking about unpeaceful solutions. We all assumed that, and it's probably something we don't give enough people credit for. We did that because we were in a libertarian setting, and it was easier to do. So there was implied like trust in the other person's virtue, to some degree.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. But I think it also, for those people who are going to have conversations, who are getting into the space, who are going to be energized to action with the truth. Hey, these are the type of conversations that you need to be able to have. You need to be able to stand in a place of knowledge and truth and understanding. And if you don't have those things, or you're outmatched, there's absolutely no shame whatsoever in saying, hey, listen, I'm not prepared for this particular subject or whatever it is. Would you mind, discussing maybe even this? The thing is with where we're at, and you don't have to know the nuances, right? You don't have to know the nuances of most things. At the end of the day, is somebody pointing a gun at somebody else? Is somebody harassing somebody else?
Super simple.
That's so simple, man.
The problem is when you're dealing with unfair opponents or ideological opponents, not just opponents. They'll use that as a tool to attack you. You sound like you don't know what you can only talk about like violence and non-aggression, huh? It's like that's all there is to it, buddy. You do whatever you want. I don't care as long as you don't point guns towards me and my loved ones and anybody else. Actually, you can point it to yourself. I wish you didn't.
Yeah,
but you can't even do that if you want to.
It brings us full circle back into Hannah with the FDA because we talked about it, right? It's like.
Good job, Shane.
The FDA should never, ever, ever even begin to exist at a national level. And I think that was part of the nuance of the conversation that I even didn't think about injecting, because it was a fast-paced conversation. To think that at a national level that you need some sort of confederation of consolidated power to run things like the FDA. God, what do the bureaucrats in D.C. know about milk? Zero. Do they know about the dairy industry? Not really. Not more than they're probably getting paid from the dairy industry. Do they know about corn production, drug production? Are they just absolute the brain trust for anything and everything under the sun that the humans in America produce for consumption by human bodies?
Well, I mean, you're completely right. I just go a step further. They can't seem to even be consistent. So if you can't be consistent, I don't care if you have more knowledge. You're not even consistent with the knowledge you have, which is apparently the problem here is milk, and they're upset at people calling themselves almond milk. So I've seen people on Twitter arguing like, okay, like, so is this going to be like across the board? Is peanut butter now a problem? Because no butter in the peanut butter, so buttermilk. Salisbury steak.
Yeah. Is it from Salisbury in the UK? No, it's not. I want to take it even a step further, because like it's not only is it fallible, it's that the FDA has been caught with their pants down a number of times that we can't even conclude, right? Whether it is bad drugs, whether it is food, or it is the lobbies that pay these people to do things that are below bar, that are below board, that actually run in opposition to what they are supposed to be doing.
That's good argument. So the problem is you'd have people like Blake and other above average intelligent people would be like, hold on, I agree with you. We just have to fix it.
Yeah. Fix it.
And then you're having to argue the whole that is I've taken that road many times, but then you're having to argue that it's unfixable, and that's a broad subject. So I prefer to just start with the fact that, hey, I should be able to call whatever I want milk, and I should be able to decide who I trust calls their stuff milk.
Yeah.
And if I make bad decisions, and that's my responsibility. So, and there's a balance between them, because on the one hand, you're called somebody who doesn't care. It's like, oh, but you're going to have children drinking the spoiled milk that apparently some company likes to sell spoiled milk to kids so they get sick, because that's an awesome business model.
That's right. It's crazy.
I feel like I'm doing an internal monologue with Blake inside my head.
Just sitting there going, man, how do you buy milk, Blake? Because I'll tell you what I do. Like, if it doesn't say like whole vitamin D milk, and most of the time organic at that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not buying it. I don't give a damn if it says almond milk.
But what if they're lying about it and you taste the milk and you don't like it, Shane? What happens then, Shane?
I don't think I'm going to buy that milk again. It's like beer. It's like water. It's like anything else that my body
It's like
thinks,
that stand that TV standing on.
There's this natural proclivity for me to err towards towards health and life and self-preservation. Like, I can't even control it. I just want to wake up tomorrow, right? And so I'm not gonna eat your fake milk or your fake butter or your fake buttermilk or whatever it is. Like, I can make that decision based on, most of the time, a taste. I know my mom or my wife continually asks me, would you like some watermelon? I contend that watermelon is not healthy for me. My body hates it. It's along with the lines of melons and cucumbers and everything else, man. Like, sure, I'll try it once in a while, but it's because somebody has asked me to try something that they think is really good. I don't need to try anything that is on the shelf that looks a little bit shifty, bad packaging. It says almond milk or soy milk or something other than milk. Hey, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out after a taste. And here's a really nice thing is, if I don't like what I've bought, or I feel like I've been somehow bamboozled, I will take that crap. I almost said it. I will take that crap right back to the store, and guess what? That store will give me a refund. I don't even have to consume the entire thing.
That's the store that's closest to your house, the Liberty Publix, probably will not just give you a refund with no questions asked, because that's their policy and they're awesome. They will probably, if enough people complain about it, not carry that product anymore.
Amazing. Why? Because they don't want to lose money. I don't hear anything in what we've just discussed that requires the actions of a barrel pointed at another person from the government at all.
I agree.
Boy, it's amazing.
So just in case you need reminders that bipartisanship means nothing intrinsically of quality, this is a good example to keep in your back pocket there when they talk about bipartisan things, and you're like, hold on, that doesn't actually bring any positivity to the argument here. Don't try to bamboozle me. I love that word.
Bamboozle. Yeah.
It's a Friends reference.
I love when my son Henry tries to say it. Oh man, it is. The guy destroys words left and right, and when he does it, like at this age, it's still pretty cute. Like, you're like, hey man, no, it's not,
the bamboozle.
No, it's bam, it's bamboo. And
Bamboo.
He calls it bamboo, right? But it bamboos, and then he interjects something else in between that part and the last part, and you're like,
some of those words are the coolest words. My nephew used to call me Anks instead of Banks.
Anks.
And one day he started calling me Banks. I was like, darn, it's gone.
That angst is I don't know, man.
I can be kind of angsty sometimes too.
It's very fitting in terms of a name for you sometimes.
But anyways, this bill, which was introduced in the Senate and the House, has about half and half. In the House, it has 41 co-sponsors, 24 Republicans, 17 Democrat, and in the Senate, it has eight, and 4 Democrat, 3 Republican, 1 Independent.
We have people who are deployed in war zones. We are $23 trillion in debt. You have less liberty today than this country has ever experienced. And what are they talking about there? Milk. What can be called milk? What a bunch of asshats.
It's unbelievable.
Golly. If you don't think this is just some kind of banana republic, boy, I'll tell you what, you're going to find out the hard way here. I hope people out there are doing some things to make sure that when the empire does finally hit kind of rock bottom, that they're a little more self-sustaining. You know what I mean?
This is actually one of the things I wish Vermin would start talking about this, because I could see him making a really good, like, just farce of the whole thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's so ridiculous to be able to sit there and point to the ridiculous the way he does it and controls a crowd, man. It would be pretty entertaining for sure.
Pony milk for everybody.
Pony milk. Free ponies.
Yeah, exactly.
Banksy, that's 1:30, man. You want to get in anything else before we depart this episode?
Do you want to comment on the impeachment or not?
Boy, I'm not.
If not, people are not going to hear it for a while. So you have any, like, what's your minute take on the impeachment?
It's all BS. It's just this distraction. I think I tweeted about it the other day. It's disruption, it's distraction, and it's a disturbance, right? Like the 3 Ds. It's like what they do in times of real panic for governments. Right now, like I just said, like the empire, this empire is so damn big that, like if you were just watching a building up close, like just a giant building, if you were this far away from it, and for those of you guys that are just out there in podcast land,
He's got his hand a foot from his face.
Foot from my face. If you're staring at something, if you've ever just been next to a, this gigantic structure of just huge enormity, it is hard for you to wrap your mind around. Mm-hmm. To see that thing fall in free fall, you might not even realize what is happening until that thing is well down the line to collapse. I contend that that's what people are watching right now. You are watching a government that is flailing right now. And it's not partisan. It's both these parties, this duopoly crap that's combined, where there's more wars, there's more spending, there's more empire, there is less freedom than there ever has been. And to try to keep an empire running like that after all the lies, after everything that has happened within, just even the past 20 years, there has to be disruption, there has to be division, and there has to be distraction. Right now, in terms of everything else that's going on that is just god-awful in this country, impeachment for, some nefarious phone calls and things that are out there against Donald Trump, I think is completely salacious to begin with. And I contend that it's to take people away from what's really happening in this country, and that is the collapse of the empire at the federal level.
Yeah. So my quick thoughts. I would love to know what Donald Trump actually thinks about the impeachment, and here's why. Because his very practical, practicality before principles,
sure,
mindset, like war games and like business negotiations. And so forth.
Yeah.
I could see him maybe in private being happy about it all, because it's working quite well within the paradigm of,
I agree,
a Democrat against a Republican, him against whatever Democrat has gone crazy pro-impeachment, because they all have basically. I'd love to get his take on whether he's like, yeah, I love it. It just makes it so easy. My rallies, they love me because they hate them.
They're huge.
They hate them,
huge.
so they love me.
Yeah.
Should they love me? I don't know. I'm just the punching bag for them, and that makes them love me. It just works. That's a horrible impression.
You're getting there.
No, I'm not.
you were going for it, though. I appreciate that.
But it's the one thing, and I've got the same opinion as you. It's all distraction. It's silliness, as we've talked before.
Yeah, I mean, if we were talking real stuff, it's get everybody home.
And talking about like what's going to happen, I really don't care. I doubt the Democrats are going to.
Whatever happens,
are going to win, because the Republicans are going to vote no, and it's just going to be what it's already been, which is every time they give credit to the Republicans because they look silly because they keep on losing.
Yeah.
But it solidifies their base. So it kind of works for both sides, which when it works for both sides, you should be very afraid. But the thing I did find funny was Justin Amash put out a tweet. I follow him because I do like him in many ways. It's getting less. Like, I wouldn't put his sticker back on my car.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I like him in many ways. But he said, hey, you should totally watch the last part of Schiff's Adam Schiff's intro to the impeachment hearings or whatever. And so I'm like, Amash, I take Amash seriously. I'm going to totally listen. There must be something interesting there. And I've heard that he quoted Washington and stuff. So I'm like, okay, that might be interesting. And it actually was interesting for the wrong reason. Oh, no. So Adam Schiff, of course, goes on and on. He's talking like Donald Trump is guilty and is just repeating himself a lot as if he's trying to like hammer it into the Democrats' mind. Like, hey, whatever you hear out there that makes sense, don't listen to those things. Listen to the fact that we all know he's guilty. But then he says something really funny. He says, you know why he still needs to go? Like, even like guilt aside, know why he still needs to go, even though the election is coming up? Because Trump trusted Giuliani. And he goes on for like 2 minutes of like Trump trusted Giuliani before the intelligence agency, and Trump trusted Giuliani before the intelligence from Christopher Carr, whatever his name is, or no, Christopher Wray. And he goes on and on and on. And I'm just like, man, Schiff, you like everything you say goes in one ear and out another because you don't make any sense. But there, you're making some sense because trusting Giuliani totally is a big problem. And you've almost got me supporting. No, okay, shut up. For a second, I was like, man, I do like it when somebody attacks Trump and Giuliani at the same time by saying that, that trust there shouldn't be had.
Yeah, yeah, by any of them.
It did make me laugh.
Any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, that's unfortunately. I think.
I hate saying bad things about Amash, but I just don't understand his strategy. It just doesn't make any sense.
You're not alone, man. Well, let's wrap this sucker up today. Want to?
Yeah. So I've got one big bow. The big bow is Patreon. That is how you support us. The stickers have gone out. You guys have sent me a lot of pictures of stickers. I see them everywhere now because a lot of you are my friends. But I will be putting a picture up with a bunch of stickers used in the wild, like on your cars and coffee mugs.
Yeah.
And big Pelican boxes.
Yeah. Show us where you're rebelling out there.
If you'd like to get some stickers, first, if you're already a patron, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We are able to do a lot. We just paid for a year of Squarespace website. With your money.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a big deal.
It is. The website also works really well. And if you'd like to get more stickers, which we'll do about 2 or 3 times a year, and you want your ideas in now, somebody already submitted some ideas, which is going to be a holographic sticker soon. They're on back order, but in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have some of those, hopefully. And if you have some other ideas, the stickers you got were people who asked for them specifically, even the weird red ones who some people still don't know what it's for. I've got a picture coming. Yeah. But if you want a sticker, tell us. And if you're one of the first 3 or 4 people, we'll probably make it because we have other work to do.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
And you can go do that at patreon.com/rebellionpod.
Yeah. We also need reviews. If you don't have a ton of money, you can support the podcast by just going out there, finding whatever app you're on, especially the Apple Podcast app, and leave us a 5-star review, man. We'll read it here on the air. Those really help us. It takes those algorithms and it puts us first in line when anything like that is even searched or any type of relative content is looked for. Like, we are first in line for that. The more people we can affect through that kind of change in culture and pushing us up into, I don't know, the top 113 like last year. Oh my gosh, top 113 podcasts, dude. There's over
for a day.
There's over 150 in the libertarian space alone.
So I figured out what happened there. I've been looking. So I get this email from Chartable. It was a Scott Horton episode that made that happen.
Hey, thank you, Scott Horton, and thank you to you guys for. I think we've got about 104, 105 reviews out there anyway. We need a lot more. We're falling behind the every episode challenge. And at any rate, we'll get
4 digits, people. We want 4 digits.
Let's go. Get busy. Get typing. I know you guys are out there telling people how you feel and what you think anyway on all the social media, which you can go out there and support us. F Banks Wise on Twitter, Shane T. Hazel across the board on everything out there. We're all over YouTube. So get out there and smash all the buttons, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We put a tremendous amount of time and effort and work into this, and through your support, we are going to keep doing that. So, at any rate, I think this is it, man. I think I've wrapped up pretty much everything on my side. You good?
Yeah. This is your place for peace, liberty, free markets. Never trust Giuliani. We love you. We need you.
Peace.
people and don't take their stuff.